Hi, Gavin McPherson from Oasis TV. Now this week, what's been in the news is consumer sentiment and specifically how that's related to property prices. Now, I would otherwise usually say that those two things can sometimes go totally unrelated. But for those interested and want to have a look at my book on page 247, you'll actually see it's a good time to look at opportunistic moments in the market to see when consumer sentiment is down and to see if there's any opportunities to buy property. If we have a quick look at this chart just put up at the moment, it shows how weak consumer confidence can bring down, and certainly is at this point in time, dwelling prices. But then let's have another closer look and follow it with this next graph here, which actually shows that most of the decline in property prices have actually come from premium property. So is there really anything to worry about? So for our major capital city decreases over the last month, we had Melbourne, alarmingly, at a 3.6% decrease. We had Adelaide at 1.8%, Brisbane at 1.7%, and Sydney at a very benign 1.1% decrease over the month. I've identified two opportunities there that I think will persist, and I'll go on a little later to say why I think this could be a little rebound on the cards at the moment. So firstly, first opportunity is Brisbane. Now there's no denying that 1.7% decrease has given away most of the gains. If you remember those big gains that we had in March of 2.8% growth, I still think there's an element of opportunity there. And if you think about it, for a market like Southeast Queensland that really has been depressed for the last 6-7 years, I think it's no surprise that the consumer sentiment index has really weighed down on them. So I'm picking a small window of opportunity here in the premium property sector for those that might be out there and canvassing from anything north of, say, $1.2 million in Brisbane, might be $3 or $4 million even in Sydney, Melbourne, for instance, and just watching that market really interestingly at the moment and to see if they can get some opportunities that I'm finding myself specifically are now another 10, even 15% than I was buying 6 months ago. So at those prices at the moment, I don't think they will last, and I think some of that consumer sentiment will start to improve and remarkably change that situation. And let's not forget, anyone who's listed their house over the last 6 months has not done so because they're desperate. They've done so because they're being greedy. So any opportunity I would find would be short-lived. Let's take, for instance, Bill Evans, the chief economist of Westpac, and his suggestion that the initial response to a budget can sometimes be overreaction. And that's certainly to be the case in recent times, at least on more than 5 occasions since 1995, when we've seen scores in excess of 6% decreases in the consumer sentiment index. Now, Paul Bloxham, the HSBC chief economist, and mind you, a former RBA board member, is also of the same opinion, who suggests that while they are low, a lull would most likely be temporary. Okay, so our little summary of the day is certainly this is a case of history repeating itself. And those last two comments by those two commentators specifically, I think hit home. And let's not forget, over the last 15 years or so, it's by no means the first time this has happened. In fact, in excess of 5-6 times, sentiment has got down below to around between 6 and 7%, all in the period of a month, and certainly post-budget. So let's not forget those two last opportunities. Premium property, I think for the next 3 to 6 months should provide some great opportunities as we see consumer sentiment move around that. And that said, also Brisbane, I think look for a very, very quick turnaround in Brisbane, which I think is still on the cards for some exceptional growth. And let's not forget that 1.7% backtrack last month only provides a little bit more opportunity going forward. That's me for this week.